According to Richard Avedon, there is an element of himself in every photograph he has ever taken, of either the famous or the obscure. For the first time in Avedon's 50-year career as a celebrated fashion photographer cum controversial portrait artist, he has given exclusive and intimate access to his life and to his work. Richard Avedon, Darkness and Light, is the new documentary film by the Emmy and Academy Award-nominated filmmaker Helen Whitney. I am pleased to have subject and artist together here on this program. Welcome.
Hi.
Tell me about this process. This is going to be on American Masters on public television, January 24th, 9 p.m., a 90-minute profile of one of our visual artists that we want to salute. Tell me how you got him to do it. Tell me what went into this magnus opus.
Well, first of all, it was Susan Lacey's idea from American Masters.
The executive producer of American Masters, right.
But it wasn't easy. I mean, this is a man and an artist who has a serious sense of himself and of control, and is used to organizing his own theater.
Yeah.
And to persuade him, it took time. We had, wouldn't you say, some moments of difficulty?
You were very persuasive. You know perfectly well.
No.
So minutes later.
Oh, there was.
So what do you want those viewers on public television to come away with at the end of your... How many hours of film did you have?
About 100-odd hours of film.
So 100 hours
of film.
Reduced down, edited down to 90 minutes, or 80, whatever.
Let me just say that is not me on the screen, Charlie. That is Helen Whitney's. With 100 hours, you could turn me into an egomaniac, into a shy, quivering mass of insecurity.
So what do we have? An egomaniac or a shy, quivering what?
You're going to have her interpretation of me, this strange exchange.
Did you learn anything by being the subject rather than the
It's the first
maker?
time I ever gave myself over completely. So a year later, I forgot anything that happened. But through the editing, she's made up this person. It's another person.
This person bears a great deal of relationship to the reality of Dick, though. I mean, I think if you came away from this, you would see an immensely complicated person, filled with hubris and humility, filled with melancholy and sunniness, filled with generosity and compassion and self-absorption. I mean, a whole range of contradictions, which is Dick's favorite word, which is the operative...
A range? Contradictions?
Contradictions, which is the operative word, really, in looking at these portraits.
Because it's white and black, it's what and what?
It's white and black. It's also, Dick is so often, I feel, sort of taking pictures of interior weathers and temperaments and emotional climates in people, and I think so brilliant at passageways from feelings that begin in one way and are contradicted and end in another, all within one face.
Tell me one thing. You and I have talked for hours on this program. We did an hour profile, and still there's more to know. Where comes this obsession that this film gets into with face, with...
It's been my entire life. I don't know how to answer it. I mean, for instance, I don't like being with... I love this. I love being with you because this is like dinner in my house. We talk. You come over one-on-one, sometimes 2 and 1. But sometimes 4 is a disaster. So I think I am this person who wants to look into someone's eyes, talk to them, know about them, and the things I see, and put them...
And what do you look for?
The truth.
The truth.
No, Helen had it better. I look for something complicated, something contradictory, something that very often similarities in very strange places. I mean, as I talk, I'm evoking an expression on your face. We've talked about this, and that's what interests me when I do something and see what I can bring. It's. I'm
going to bring both of them because I want to. When you go ahead, you want to say something.
I just wanted to say I think the most. For me, the portrait that is the best example of that is the Dennison portrait, because I think her face, to me, is filled in and of itself with such contradiction. I mean, a woman who's gaunt and greedy, sort of self-absorbed, blind, and a visionary. I mean, I mean, that is true. That's the kind of face you are drawn to, and I think it's within those 2 stunning, disturbing
I've never
pictures.
asked you this, but if you had to select one photograph and say, this represents who I am, what my work is, what my...
Charlie, that's like saying,
all right,
what night did you make love the best? It's impossible to answer. I mean, I don't know about you.
You hope to come away with a sense of the contradictions and what is best about him as an artist?
A variety of things. One is he will work 23 and a half hours in a given day to get it right. I mean, I as the collaborator on this, I mean, I was absolutely staggered by that. I really was. And we would film. We would be exhausted.
You worked that way.
I worked that way as well. But we would end an 18-hour day, and I would be getting a phone call at dawn saying, "You know what?
Yeah.
I could do it better." And it's not a phone call I wanted actually at that moment. I thought we'd got it pretty well. And
Obsession with perfection?
absolutely getting
About work.
Yeah.
About life, not so good. I don't get that right, but work I can get right. I can
You don't
control
think you've
it.
gotten life right?
No, that's another show.
I'm going to see a very moving thing now. Tell me about your father that's in this film.
There was a great distance between us because he had grown up in a orphan in the Lower East Side, having come as an infant from Russia with his mother, deserted by the father, terrible childhood, and he couldn't understand the kind of son I was. And toward the end of his life, I mean, not last decade, as my son was growing up, I wanted to connect to him really, not on just his terms, but I wanted him to know me. And I began the series of photographing him. It had nothing to do with his dying, nothing to do with his being sick, but a way of his getting to know what I did. And little by little this evolved until he came to depend on these photographic sittings. And he actually stayed alive until I came back from Europe to pose for the last pictures 1 week before he died. I'm sorry, I haven't answered your question.
No, but that's pretty good.
Could be.
Roll tape. Here it is.
For Avedon, remembering his father is complicated. There was little that drew the young Richard to the embittered, remote head of the family. His emotional connection was to his vivid, theatrical mother. There are no childhood photographs of Avedon with his father. His pictures of fathers with children are filled with longing, fantasies of moments that never happened.
The photographs of my father, the making of those photographs, had nothing to do with the art of photography. It had to do with my way of trying to reach him, trying to let him know who I was. Because everything about the two of us was on his terms. I went into business with him. I listened to... I knew him very well. I knew what he'd suffered as a child in an orphan asylum in the Lower East Side, taken away from his mother, with a father who deserted him. I loved him, but we never spoke the same language.
Good for you. For you in capturing this, because it has always been my sense that people somehow need someone that can bring out and capture and touch what it is that defines them in their relationships, especially father and son, mother and daughter, daughter and father, all those pivotal relationships in our life. And to have someone come and get you to talk as honestly makes a difference.
Well, she never stopped, over and over and over, until you forget the camera, you forget she's doing it, and you really begin to feel something.
There is also here, you use other people to talk about him. Mike Nichols, who else?
Oh, Francine Gray, John Lahr, Andrea Malkovich,
And do they present, like the proverbial elephant, different perspectives on him, or do you come away with some consensus view of an artist?
Well, you certainly come away with a sense of complexity. And I think Mike Nichols put it very well, and it seemed to sum up what a lot of people were trying to say, that he's inside and outside at the same time. You know, you use the Duchess of Windsor as a really good example, that this picture on one level could be seen as a critique of the thinness of their lives, and yet what he was able to do and what happens in that picture is you go inside them as well and say, not so easy still to have a life.
Just one last question about movement. What is it about you and movement?
It was about me and movement when I really moved.
Yeah.
I wanted to grow up and be Fred Astaire. And when that burst of energy when you're 21, 22, I mean, I couldn't sit and do studio portraits. And everything, I love to dance, I love to move, I love the girls that I dated when I was a kid with dancers. And I think that thrust of energy that comes when you're in your 20s, when I began as a fashion photography, I went against all the sort of static, what was called fashion photography in those days. I just like moving.
How do you define yourself as a photographer? I mean, you've had different stages: portrait photographer, portraiture, fashion photography, social, whatever.
I'm just a born photographer. I get bored, and when I get bored, I move to the next place. And the wonderful thing about the life that's fallen on me is that I can, when I've done too much fashion, stop. When I've done too much of the deeper, more intense and painful part of myself, I can go back to another place. It's like being a writer who writes on many subjects. All what you do.
Congratulations, Helen. We'll be right back.